welcome to today's episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat. I'm Karen Scott Green.
And I'm Kat Hardrick.
And we are here today with Curtis Clemons. He is an investigator, a senior investigator. Is that right?
Deputy Chief Investigator.
Let me give you your prompts. Deputy Chief Investigator with the Gwinnett County District Attorney. Welcome, Curtis.
That's right. Woo-hoo.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode. So we wanted to have you on because we had an interesting conversation with you some time ago about the impact of opioids and particularly fentanyl in Gwinnett County.
Yes.
So this is our education and listening session.
Yes.
So what are you seeing as far as trends in opioid epidemic, fentanyl in our community?
Definitely not only Gwinnett County. I think, obviously because we're here, we focus on Gwinnett County, but nationwide, the fentanyl epidemic has grown tremendously. If you look at the recent government statistics for 2022 alone, of the massive number of drug overdose deaths, fentanyl has been involved in 67% of drugs.
Oh my goodness.
That's in the entire country. And of course, it is growing and it's becoming not only an epidemic in the country, but Gwinnett County is starting to see its fair share of deaths, especially of our young people who accidentally overdose because they think they're getting one thing and they're actually getting something laced with fentanyl, which is dangerously deadly.
What's the ages when you say young people? Like how young? Not elementary, I hope.
In some cases, the youngest statistic that we have from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration for Gwinnett County is 12.
Whoa, that's a baby.
Oh my Lord,
that's a baby.
One of the problems is, and I talked about it recently in a Gwinnett County stakeholders meeting when we discussed the dangers of drugs and fentanyl, is the prevalence of candy, multicolored candy that is being targeted at children. And it looks like candy. It comes in different flavors, but it's also laced with fentanyl. And
it looked like gummies, right? Because there was something on the news just recently. One of our was it middle school or an elementary school in the metro area, that a child was giving out these gummies.
Oh, yeah.
Put it in the Sprite. Put it in the Sprite and then let it dissolve and drink it. And then unfortunately, those who drank it begin to suffer the side effects of it.
Okay, now that was another case that just happened last week in my cluster at a middle school. Yeah, that was in my cluster. My kids actually went to that middle school.
Oh wow!
That's sad.
Yeah,
that is so sad. So how do we combat that? Like, I guess am I saying that right? How can we all combat that? What are the signs that we as parents and community leaders, we all need to work together to try to help combat this epidemic?
Well, that is both an easy question to answer and is also a difficult question to answer because I wholeheartedly believe that parents do care about what their children are doing. And there's that line that sometimes parents are afraid to cross of being a friend versus being a parent. And sometimes parents want to be friends with their children and forget that they also are a parent and have to be responsible for them. And in doing that as a parent, you have to do the difficult things that they don't see or they're not prepared to deal with. And some of that is monitoring their social media, monitoring who their friends are, where they're hanging out at, and making contact. I know when I was coming up, I didn't get a chance to go hang out at a friend's house, so to speak, until my parents had a chance to go meet the other parents.
Child.
I'm still that way.
I'm
still that way. My son's my baby is a junior in high school, and if I don't know the parents, it's not happening.
My child in college, and he went out of town, and I'm like, who you going with? Can I give me your flight information? My child grown. She has to turn on her ID on your phone.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And
that's parenting. But on the flip side of that, I also understand, and I'm not giving an out or an excuse, but in today's economy and the way things are going, I understand. And I saw it, and I still see it as a mentor to young folks here in Gwinnett County. And it's not just Gwinnett County; it's nationwide. But parents with children, even people who are sick, they're just trying to survive. And one of the things that I ran into often as a mentor is you have young folks with no fathers in the home, and you have mom who is, bless her heart, is doing everything she can to survive and provide for their children. And so a lot of times that mother may be working 2, sometimes 3 jobs, to take care of her. So what ends up happening? Usually the oldest child, it becomes a surrogate parent. And if not the oldest child, then guess what? The friends that they're hanging out with become the surrogate family that raises them. And sometimes the friends' parents aren't the best people in the world to be around either. And then those kids are hanging out at those other folks' house and learning, the wrong type of values and things to look out for in life. And sometimes are encouraged to take advantage of the system or do criminal activity to get over. And this leads into other things. And they start to build those familial relationships, unfortunately, with the wrong type of people. We're all looking for validation in some sense. And so they end up doing things to be validated by this other family that has essentially taken them in.
So I, as a parent, what are some of the warning signs or things that I should be looking for in either my child or my child's friends that could suggest that opioids may be an issue?
Well, it's not any one thing that you would look for. Oftentimes, much like a person who they say there's some warning signs to look for, a person who is considering, taking their own life. A lot of times there are no signs, but many times there are signs to look for. And in this particular case with your kids, again, I have to go back to who are they socializing with? You need to be able to monitor their social media, and you need to be able to have an open, honest conversations with your children. And much like it's almost a running joke, and you see people, they've been smoking marijuana because their eyes are all red and everything like that. Well, opioids won't do that. They won't give you the red eyes, but your eyes will dilate and very wide. So if you're looking at your kid and they're looking all wide-eyed and it's very very wide open, and it's supposed to look that little small pin dot that you normally see, they're in a high state of agitation mentally and high stimulation. And so they're probably taking something that's putting them in that position. Or if you find a child who just kind of wants to stay to themselves, or they become very secretive, especially if that is a
That's like every other teenager, though.
Right. Well, but see, there's a difference, I believe, having been a single father myself and having had to raise 2 successful children, a young lady and my son. I had those difficult conversations with my daughter. I had those difficult conversations. And I'm telling you, the things that you learn, it just blows your mind. But you have to be open to hearing what your child has to say, sometimes without being judgmental. And that can be.
Can you give us, this is maybe a weird question, but give us a how to start those conversations. I feel like a lot of people may not know how to start that tough conversation. I mean, because
how did you do it with as a parent to parent? How did you do it?
Right.
Well, if you can imagine, with my young daughter at the time, she was 11 going on 12 when I became a single father.
Mm.
And so her mother was not there as needed, and so I had to have those difficult conversations about becoming a woman, you know, and also as she grew older, having those difficult conversations about boys and drugs. And one of the things that I did, and I did the same thing with my son, and then there were times I did it with both of them. With my daughter, I did what was called daddy-daughter dates. And I would take her out. We would get dressed up, and take her out and open the car door for her, and to show her that's how a man's supposed to treat her.
I love that.
He's not gonna pull up in my driveway and blow the horn, and you go running out the front door.
Right.
He's
Look, you better than most. At least you're in the driveway. Some just get to the curb.
Right. And I would take her out to dinner, or I would take her out to the movies. But essentially, I would take my daughter on a date to show her how she should be treated. Same thing with my son. We would have father-son days, and son, what do you like to do? Or he and I both grew up, and we liked comic books, and we would go do Comic-Con. And when he was younger, I would take him to the comic book store, and we'd buy comic books, and we would read them together. And if you're not a comic book fan, you wouldn't know.
Okay. This is how I know if you're a real comic book fan. DC or Marvel household?
Uh-oh.
This is a Marvel household. Sorry.
We good with me. We good. Look, we is coup de la. Okay.
Definitely a Marvel household. But if you read comic books actually talk about the social issues that are going on today.
They do.
And I would use comic books as a foray into being able to talk to my son about issues that are going on, and including dating and drugs and who are your friends, and and it kind of led to that. And I'm very much like you, Miss Karen. My kids did not go over to anybody's house until I had the chance to meet the parents. And I encourage the parents to come over and meet me as well if my son was invited to something. And what I try to do is sometimes bring the kids and the parents together at my house for maybe like a little barbecue, a little social that kind of thing. But the good side of that is I end up becoming the surrogate dad for a lot of young men and a lot of young women. And what I would do, and I would not take those days back for anything. A lot of times I would come home and I would have several young folks at my house, my daughters, my external daughters, my external sons, and then I would come home and I would cook dinner. And we would all sit at the dining room table, eat dinner because they didn't have that with their family. Mom was at work, or dad was not there, or mom and dad were both going to work. And so literally I would have a table full of young people from the community, and we're sitting down talking and having dinner like a family. And many, many conversations came up, and that opened my eyes, and but they felt comfortable enough to talk to me because
you built that trust.
Exactly. And I would treat them just like my kids, because I would tell them, okay, I cooked dinner. Now y'all go in the kitchen and go clean up.
That's right. I know that's right.
I love that. So you created this village, and it created an atmosphere where you not only were learning from them, like what's going on in their lives, what's going on in their social community, right? You're also as a police officer, as someone who's sworn to protect and serve
out here,
you're also learning like what's trending, what's going on. So I love that you were kind of like man on the street with your own kids.
And that's what led me, because of that, that's what led me into mentoring. I've been a mentor with the Gwinnett County school system at the Give Center for the kids. I was vice president of an organization called LEADS, which is Law Enforcement Agencies Assisting in the Development of Students. I did that for about 8 years in the Snellville, Stone Mountain area. working with families. When COVID hit, we, transitioned from that to helping families get the money to help pay their bills and utilities because the parents couldn't work. And just, and of course, I work with some of the churches as well, just taking young folks under my wing and trying to, show them that there is another way, that what they see is not necessarily the only thing in life. And when you're dealing with young folks who literally don't think that they're going to live past 21, it is really sad. I remember a young man, his name is Eric, and I won't give his last name for us to protect his privacy. But I met Eric when he was 13 years old, and he lived over in the Centerville area, or there off of Scenic Highway in Gwinnett County. And at that time, the Atlanta Braves were still playing at the stadium in downtown Atlanta at Turner Field. And I can remember with the Leads program, we got a van and we took the kids to their first professional baseball game. And there's a saying sometimes when you see people thinking, you can see the gears moving in their head. And as we were literally driving out of that area, you could see the gears moving in his head. And he was just looking out the window in a state of awe because he knew that Gwinnett Place Mall existed, never been there. He had heard of the Mall of Georgia, never been there. He went as far, his whole world was up to the Ingles Kroger grocery store and Eastside Medical Center.
Wow.
As far as it extended, he had never been on a vacation. He had never essentially left his community when he was born. That was all he knew. And so to take him out of there and for him to see the city of Atlanta, I-85, the big highway, you can see the gears moving on his head, and he began to realize that there is another world outside of the small one that you are in, and it opened up possibilities for him. And I'm so proud of him because at this point, he is a lieutenant in the U.S. Army.
Praise
God.
Okay, that is
love
right.
it.
And experiences, environment, and exposure. That's it.
So this is a confession. I was a diehard fan of the series called The Wire. Did you watch that?
Yes.
So there's this one scene where the two young men, I can't think of their names right now, they're going to do a drug run. They're going to get some drugs, and they're leaving because the show is based out of Baltimore, and so they have to go up to New York to get some supply. And the radio station, so they lost their radio station once they got out of the Baltimore, DC area, right? And the kid was like, why can't we get our radio station? They had never been outside of Baltimore. They did not realize that a radio station did not go outside of their geographical area. And this was not Sirius radio. So they didn't even realize it. And so when I saw that scene, and I've seen this scene several times, what struck me was these young people were running dope. I mean, they were running heroin.
Yes.
Here they are running dope, doing these very big things in a way that could could impact the rest of their lives. And they had never even left Baltimore. They had never, they could have been locked up for a series number of years. And they had never even lost Baltimore. But for whatever reason, that stuck with me. So they had never been exposed. They had never done anything outside of Baltimore.
And that's why it's so important to have programs to help young people get exposure and get different experiences, right? So that they can say, there's a world greater than this space in which I know maybe school at home or the grocery store at home. And so do you have, Curtis, any programming? Because I know you said you did all this stuff in the past. Are there any current programs that you guys work with to try to help some of the young kids?
Myself, several investigators in the district attorney, Patsy Austin Gatson. We do continue to go over and speak with the students over at the Give Center. sadly, we had a case this morning where a young man was convicted of a double homicide, and he was a former attendant at the gift center. That's not to say that all those kids are bad or not redeemable, but you help who you can. There's two things you have to overcome. You have to overcome what their experiences in life are or have been. And you have to overcome whether or not they are ready to receive the message that someone outside of their normal everyday life is trying to bring to them.
Yes.
To receive the message. And some are. There are some kids that are you just immediately have a connection with, and they have a connection with you. And they're ready to hear. They're ready to listen. They're ready to be mentored. But as I posted the other day, or just yesterday, I was on Facebook. I was telling parents and young men and women to step in and step up and be mentors to our children, because they need it now more than ever.
How can they step up? What did you post? Is there someplace they can go to sign up to mentor or anything?
If I can give you a little story, it's about one of my mentees. I met him at my church, which is Poplar Hill Baptist Church up in Beaufort. I met his mother. The father is not in his life, but she came to me and said, I respect you a lot. He watches you at church. He sees you. Can you talk to him? And I kind of took him under my wing as another surrogate child of my own. And I became a mentor with him and gave him my phone number, and we talked. He was a basketball player at Mill Creek High School, and he ended up getting a partial scholarship to Georgia Southern University.
Okay, go ahead.
Because of that. But he struggled. He struggled with peer pressure, which all kids do. He struggled with people trying to, give him drugs or get him to use drugs. He didn't want to do that. And so we prayed a lot. Prayer is important.
Yes, it is.
We prayed a lot and we talked a lot. And, that young man went on to get his partial scholarship, and he got injured and was not able to play basketball. But, he is a brilliant young man, and he is graduating this Sunday with a degree in neuroscience.
Go ahead.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm very proud of him. And he also pledged to be an alpha. And so
he can't. We're not going to hold that against him.
So he did pledge. He crossed over and became an alpha, and he's graduating.
Are you an alpha?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
But he.
I won't talk smack about them. One of my good friends is an alpha.
We'll leave them alone. But yeah, he's graduating with a degree in neuroscience. A young Black man graduating with a degree in neuroscience.
That is awesome. God. Is he going on to graduate school?
He intends to go on to graduate school, yes. And so, and in my post, I actually mentioned, like I said, we need men and women to step in these children's lives and step up and continue to be a part of their lives. Because that's one of the things I found that most young folks think. Somebody's only going to be there temporarily, and the first time something goes bad, they're going to give up on it.
Yeah,
that's right.
You have to walk the walk and talk the talk and stick with it, and that's something that they're missing. And I in my post I said, shout out to Ryan Cox and organizations like Gwinnett Chat that are using their platform to reach out to these youth and make a change in their lives. More of us need to step in and step up and be a part of these children's lives, because they are our community. It's the community that we live in. So we need to have an impact in these young people's lives.
Absolutely.
What was the name of that nonprofit again?
It's called Gwinnett Chat.
That's right. Gwinnett.
That was our last episode that we dropped. We talked to the kids. We talked to the students that are a part of Gwinnett Chat Outreach, and they told us about their experience being in the program and what they've gotten out of it. And one of the young men talked about the fact that he didn't want to go to college before being exposed by going on college tours with Ryan.
That's right.
And one of the board members said, I challenge you, if I pay for your books, would you go to college? And he's at Gwinnett Tech right now, and he said it was awesome. He's doing well.
Yeah. You know, when you hear these kids' testimonies, you know, full disclosure, y'all know I'm on the board of Gwinnett Chat Outreach, so let everybody know that.
You don't say.
Yeah, right. But the reason I went in is to everything like what you were saying, Curtis. The reason I believe in what Ryan is doing is because I lost both my parents at a very early age, and it was a village that surrounded me and my siblings. And had it not been people to step up who were not our direct blood, it was blood and non-blood. And so I have this huge village of brothers and sisters and play cousins and all this stuff, because all of us, like what you said, when it was time to eat, it was 20 kids in this house eating, you know, and we all had to know each
everybody
other.
Got something.
Yes, everybody had something. And so when I met Ryan, and fast forward, and you see someone doing that today, it just was like, this is what's needed. Because if we don't show these kids, these young adults, these emerging adults, that we are a village, we got you. We got you. Anything that you're thinking about, that you're doing, one of us have either experienced it, we know about it. You know, you come to me, I may not know, but we can go to Brother Clemons. He know it. You don't know.
Ain't nothing new under the sun, like the old folks say, right?
Nothing new under the sun. You don't have to walk it alone. You know, and what's the saying? Like, you learn from other people. It's a smart person is someone who learns from someone else's mistakes, but it's a fool who learns from your own. Something like that. You know, so let us help you. You don't have to struggle by yourself. We are out here. And that's the biggest message I want to send to every child. Like, don't try these drugs. You think you know something. And please, Curtis, drive home the amount of fentanyl a person can use.
Yes, that's part of our fentanyl education as well. Because a lot of people don't know that it doesn't take a lot to kill you. Can you talk to that?
Please speak to that.
Sure. In the presentation that I used for the Gwinnett County stakeholders meeting and I presented, we're talking about, you know, less than the amount that you could put on the tip of your finger is enough to kill you instantly.
Oh, wow.
You know, and we compared that amount to the size of a penny, and a penny looked huge compared to the small, minuscule amount of fentanyl that can actually kill you. And unfortunately, what people don't realize is that these drug dealers, they're cutting other drugs like, you know, Percocets and things like that with the fentanyl, because they're paying to give a higher, you know, more, you know, potent high for their customers, not realizing how much of a small amount can actually kill. So a lot of times our young people are thinking they're buying Percocet to as another form of getting high, and it's fentanyl, and it has more than enough fentanyl in some cases to kill. We've seen from the medical examiner's reports, it had enough fentanyl in one pill to kill 5 people.
Oh, my goodness.
And all that was in one pill. And unfortunately, in that case, you know, the victim took one pill, thought she was just going to get high and kind of get away from the world, and she never woke up again. You know,
my goodness.
And our young people are the problem is, not only is it coming from the drug dealers, and then it's being pushed by the drug dealers, sometimes in gummy and candy form, but it's also coming from their friends. You know, friends who they think that they can trust. The problem is, the first thing you have to realize is that if you have a friend trying to push pills to you in the first place,
that's not your friend.
That's not your friend. And as I'm sure we probably all said it, because I know my mom told me, everybody is not your friend.
That's right. And if they're trying to tell you to do something that goes against what your family has taught you, they're not your friend. They're your straight enemies.
Right.
So are they putting fentanyl in weed?
That's what I was about to ask.
there that is shown up, but very minutely in the weed, usually because it's crushed into a powder form. It can also be a crystalline form as well, but we're seeing it mostly in being mixed with over-the-counter drugs and other things, and then reformulated. So far in 2023, in Gwinnett County alone, we've already had 18 teenagers die from fentanyl overdose.
In 2023?
Yes.
In 2023, 18 have died already from fentanyl overdoses. Again, thinking they're buying one thing and getting something else. Of those 18, and you may have seen some of them in the news, a couple of them happened in Lilburn. 11 of those 18 were all Hispanic children, ranging in ages from 12 to 17. You know,
Yeah, I didn't that part I didn't know. That was a statistic that I wasn't aware of. So how many deaths? So you said 18 teenagers, but how many deaths so far totally, either in 23 or in 22?
In 21, I know in 2021 we had 121 deaths from fentanyl alone. In 2022, it rose to 296.
Oh, that's more
and
than
it's
two
165 days, 365. You got to be kidding me.
You have someone dying almost every day from fentanyl. It's not always children, but children are being targeted, it seems, but adults are unfortunately passing away from fentanyl overdoses as well. Again, much like the children in our county, they are thinking they're buying one thing and they're getting a combination of things, which includes the fentanyl, and they end up dying from it.
In the last 2 years, I've had 3 adult clients to die from fentanyl overdose. And these are parents who are trying to get their kids back who had drug addiction.
Right.
And they before reunification could happen, they died of drug overdose.
Right.
You know, and so the impact, the impact that's going to leave on those kids, if you know, and I know that addiction is a disease, but if anybody is listening to this podcast, that's viewing this podcast, if you are dealing with addiction, please get help. By the time we air this, I will have the number for some addiction specialist resources. We'll have that available. I don't know how we can stress enough how important this is. Is there anything else, Curtis, that you want to, any other knowledge that you want to impart on our viewers and our listeners?
Absolutely. There are several things. The first thing, unfortunately, you may have heard that Atlanta has become the hub for human trafficking. I don't know if you've heard that, but it is also increasingly becoming the hub for the trafficking of fentanyl-laced products from the drug cartels.
Wow.
And being distributed throughout the country. So, law enforcement is working really hard on that to reduce that number and push them out of Georgia and obviously push them out of the United States. The other thing I want to talk about is, which I'm proud of, and I know Madam District Attorney Patsy Gasson is definitely proud of, is that she was the first district attorney in the state of Georgia to connect the drug dealer with the death of an individual and go after the dealer and charge them with murder and prosecute the death of a young person that they had sold that fentanyl laced Percocet. And so she was the first in the state of Georgia to connect the two and bring criminal charges. And now other DAs across the state are following in her lead. The other sad thing, we look at, how many deaths we had in 2021 and 2022, and the numbers are coming in every day. So it's hard to get to, and that total for 2022 may go up because those who have died, towards the end of the year, we're still waiting for the toxicology result.
Oh, wow.
So that number may go up in the final total.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So, and then the other thing is in 2022, this is according to federal government statistics, there were over 100,000 fentanyl deaths in the United States in a 12
What?
months.
Say that again, sir.
100,000 fentanyl related deaths in the United States.
Yeah, we got to do something about this. Lord have mercy.
So beyond my own household and looking out for my kids and my kids' friends, what can we do to act kind of globally to try to help in this pandemic? Because it's a pandemic. It's an epidemic.
It's an epidemic. How can we use this platform to help reduce that and get this out of our way? This is terrible.
Well, I think it goes back to being a village. We have to be in our children's lives, and if you're, as a parent, I understand the struggle of just surviving, but you're not able to be there because you're working, you're trying to keep your head above water and take care of your family. I suggest finding a church home, finding an organization like Gwinnett Chat Outreach, finding other 100 Black Men. They do mentoring programs as well. We need to, like I said, I think it comes up to the community, the village stepping and stepping up and looking out for our children. As a parent, I reiterate, it is tough to have those difficult conversations, but we have to take time to have our conversations, because we grow up thinking that our children will bury us. Most times we don't think that we'll have to bury our children.
And
young people have this idea that they are invincible and nothing will happen. It won't happen to me. It'll happen to the other guy, but it won't happen to me. And then it does, and they see their friends passing away from these dangerous drugs. And again, I think it goes back to, we have to come together as a village and willing to set our pride aside and reach out for help through various different organizations, the church, even law enforcement, even the DA's office has a young DA and investigators summer program that they put on every year. And we bring young people in and we teach them about, the criminal justice process and what they can do to take it back to their community and keep their friends out of trouble, and to help them stay away from those bad influencers that they sometimes call their friends. They just don't. Those friends are no good for them.
Is the application process still open for the DA's summer program?
Unfortunately, it is already full for 2023. But the coordinator for that, Terrell Patrick, with the District Attorney's office, if you reach out to him, he can give you all the application process. We're actually looking at for 2024, trying to run 2 of those a year.
That'll be good.
So
we put all that on our website.
Yeah, so if you want to reach out to the Gwinnett County District Attorney's office or at Terrell Patrick at GwinnettCounty.com, he'll be able to assist you and prepare you to apply and be a part of the selection process for 2024.
Okay.
All right.
That
That's real
sounds
good.
Yeah.
You gave us some good information,
Absolutely.
Mr. Clemons. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
And thank you for bringing how many years of public service do you have behind you?
May will be, oh gosh, I'm telling my age.
You were 10 or 12 when you started, right?
Right. I was a wee child when I started.
Yeah.
May 8th of this year will be 35 years of law enforcement in Gwinnett County.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you for bringing your 35 years of expertise in policing and community engagement.
And your personal values. Like, this shows that this is beyond a job.
Yes.
Like, you're doing this because you are committed to making this world a safer place for all of us to live, from our children to our adults, and no parent should bury their young ones, right? And so I applaud you and thank you for allowing us to have a peek into your home. What are you, a Marvel? You're a Marvel.
Yeah, you good with me if you're a Marvel fan.
All later, Karen. Marvel over here all day long.
So my like I didn't follow comics until I had my two younger sons, because my oldest son wasn't into comics. But those younger two, we were going to comic book conventions. We were going to Comic-Con. Like I've got pictures on my Facebook of us dressing up in Star Wars, doing and then like for Halloween they'd be Marvel characters. We went to every premiere there was. We couldn't just go to the movie and watch the movie. No, we had to join like the Marvel Cinematic Universe Atlanta fan club and go to their premieres. You know, tickets are about like $35-$50 to go see the movie, but you got a whole experience that went with it. And it was just, like I did all of that because my kids were into it.
Growing up with my son, you know, we would do it together. And even my son is 29 now. And even to this day, we will call or text each other. And so, you know, this Black Panther movie is coming out, right?
Right.
And what we will do, we will coordinate so that we both go see it at the same time.
Yeah.
He's in New York, but I'm here in Gwinnett County. But we'll go see it at the same time so we can discuss it. And, you know, what theme did you think that was? What message did you think they were trying to get by, you know? Because that's how we used to do it, reading the comic book.
Yeah. So how many times did you see the first Black Panther?
Huh?
How many times did you see the first Black Panther?
4.
Oh, you got me beat. I saw it 3 times.
Yeah, girl.
You got me beat, man.
I guess I got to jump in here. As a kid, we used to have a wall locker from the bottom to the top full of comic books. So y'all, I don't even want to go in how deep I am with comics. I'm just listening to y'all. I'm like, these little rookies, you know. And my family, we big on that too. Like we all go the same time. We make time to go to the show and everything. I took my whole family, and it was amazing because, you know, with the first Black Panther, did y'all dress up?
Yes, of course.
You go and you dress up, and a lot of folks didn't know what to expect with Black Panther.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
And so when you got to see who the Black Panther was, it was like, wow.
It was an experience. I told you, we belong to MCU Atlanta fan club. And so they rented out a theater and they had this other station down. It was over at North DeKalb Mall. And they also had this other store that they had like it was a whole village that they had like set up. And you could take pictures, and then they had like African drummers ushering us into it was an experience. Ushering us into the theater. I got a little weepy because it was kind of, it was cool though. It was really cool.
But could you imagine taking a young person who's never had that experience today?
Right.
Wouldn't that be nice? That could be something.
Exposure, and, you know, showing them something new, and, you know, things that, you know, nobody's ever talked to them about. And, or, like I said, taking them to the Braves game and getting outside of that little box that they have been in and see that there's a whole other world out there.
Absolutely.
Because now they can say, I have something positive over here to fight for, and the versus having something negative over here, right? And so now they're going to have a decision to make. I have a future if I hang out with Mr. Clemons or Cat and Karen and Cat or Ryan and versus all this temptation over here, you know, and that's what we got to give them, a choice.
And see, I go back, and I will say this, and you know, bless her heart, my mom is suffering from, you know, dementia and Parkinson's disease.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So I'm the caretaker for her, but you know, my parents are the reason why I am who I am today. You know, my dad, you know, lifetime, you know, military veteran. I served in the Marine Corps, so I will always be a Marine. And then, you know, with my mom, you know, I didn't understand then, but as I got older, I understood. I put away those childish things, as they say, and I learned what was important as an adult. But my mom used to drag us to the National Urban League meetings. My mom was the secretary of the National She used to drag us to the NAACP meetings. My family is from Montgomery, Alabama. And so I listened to the stories of my mom and my aunts and my uncles and my grandmother when she was still living about, the bus boycott and all the things that they went through. Going to Dexter Avenue Baptist Church where Dr. King was. And my grandmother's house is just around the corner from Dr. King's house that was firebombed. So I took in all of this as a child, and not understanding the significance and the history that was literally right there in my living room talking to me. And so those experiences and listening to them and then getting older and realizing the impact and the social justice change, that they helped to bring about by the protests and everything, that had an impact on me. And that's why I'm continuing to be active in the community now.
Amen. Well, thank God for you, honey.
Yes. And you're in that sandwich generation now where, well, you're no longer taking care of kids, but now you're taking care of your mom. And so a lot of us can relate to that, still having young people and having older adults in our lives that we have become responsible for. But this was such an interesting conversation.
It would be. Look,
we've gone beyond, learning about fentanyl. And so I enjoyed learning more about your life. I didn't know that you had been a single parent. I wasn't aware of that. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you for your commitment to young people.
Amen. And this community, this county, and the state. We're gonna address that. We're gonna put all your contact information so people can know how they can sign up and volunteer and get with DA Patsy's office and so forth. And hopefully you guys can get twice a year programming. Yeah, because we can do that.
Because I'll tell you, she started it. Ms. Gatson started it in 2021, her first year in office, and we got 12 applicants. This year we got 72.
Whoa!
So those young kids became the ambassadors, if you will, and they put the word out. And so you see how much it's grown from 12 to 72. And so we're trying to figure out a way I'm not, Terrell Patrick is. He's trying to figure out how he can accommodate all 72 of these kids, because that's way more than we anticipated.
Yeah.
So our young people are being ambassadors and getting the word out, and that's exactly what we asked them to do, and it's working.
Amen. That's good.
Thank you. We'll put all of that information when we post this episode. And thank you for educating us today. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat,
where we are impacting the world one conversation at a time.